Hello everybody, this has temporarily woken Myrta up from her contemplative torpor, as this just makes no absolute sense, and I don't know whether to blame the D&D creators or whether to blame Polygon. Now, I tried to read up on the D&D's newest little book that they released, Candlekeep, which is, well, it's a collection of little campaigns for people to run, and most of them run in a library, which kind of explains half of this, but it still comes off really sense not make. Dungeons & Dragons kicks off 2021 with its first wheelchair-accessible dungeon. Now, I'm sorry, okay? If I read the word dungeon, it normally means a strong underground prison cell, especially in a castle, as a word's definition, but when we colloquially use the term dungeon inside role-playing community, we normally mean a bad guy's stronghold. A bad guy's stronghold, a cave, something that tends to be fortified, that you fight through as the hero. And from the title of this article alone, I am so sorry. It's the middle of the day. It's the middle of my work day. That sentence so not sense make that I can't get it out of my head for like the past hour and a half. Wheelchair accessible dungeon. If I use dungeon as a term to not mean underground prison, if I do mean underground prison, then I am sorry, you're not building a ramp down to the underground prison. You keep people in a prison, you make it not easily accessible. If I use the dungeon in a term of a cave of a dragon with enemies or a evil person's lair, then making it not accessible feels like the point. I mean, if you're a bad guy and you have a dungeon that you rule over, right? That you don't want heroes to walk into, the last thing that you're gonna do is put in wheelchair accessibility unless you yourself need to be using a wheelchair. I'm sorry, at this point, you may as well just have like all of your belongings thrown across like a desert and go, "Come in, heroes, please take your pick, please take something." In which case, it could be a great troll move if you want to be that guy, because you could just be like, "Please take something, I cursed all of them, I don't know what they do, so your experiences will enlighten me." But effectively, if you read the next parts of it, I don't fully understand what exactly did they create, okay? So that was the title. And the title made my brain reel to a point where I've been thinking about this for quite a while, so I might be wrong to reel at the title, but Jesus Christ, the title makes absolutely no sense. If you read further, it doesn't explain what it is. Among the designers on hand to give the press a preview of their contributions was actor and producer Jennifer Cracker, part of the Silver and Steel actual play group. Last summer, Crackmer put a lot of energy into creating the accessibility and gaming resource. She said it was important for her to make sure that her adventure was available to everyone. This is not something that's new to tabletop gaming or new to D&D, but it was important to me to make accessibility part of my dungeons, Crackmer said. As an ambulatory wheelchair user, I wanted people to have the opportunity to see themselves represented in game. We have the ability in fantasy to imagine things. We don't have to pay to make those accommodations. This is something we can imagine in our brains, and it is there. So it's something that was really important to me to put into my design. And it's the combination of dungeon with wheelchair accessible that does not align make. Now, I played with a lot of players that played with prosthetics inside D&D, and I can even see how you could play with a wheelchair inside of D&D. It is the item itself that you would infuse with the properties that you would require to travel from place to place, rather than make a wheelchair accessible dungeon. Because quite simply, if you are a dungeon master, the whole point is that you don't want people coming into your dungeon, Not that you would like everybody to be able to come into your dungeon. That is like the opposite of a dungeon, okay? That is an open public space. It's not an open public space, it's your evil lair. Come on, people. Now, if you wanted to have a wheelchair user in a D&D game, hear me out. First of all, nothing stops you from engaging in a bit of technomancy and all of the other things that don't belong in D&D. And why not make a magical mech? Why not make a magical mech that you can sit in and be moved about? You can try prosthetics. You can float your torso around by being a magician. I have seen a person play a plant in a pot that required them to have an assistant / pet that would either carry them about or they would hop with the plant pot. If you're making a wheelchair, what exactly stops you from making it float, or putting rockets on it, or enchanting it, or instead of making wheels, putting on legs onto the wheel? What stops you from being very creative in your transportation vehicle, as you're not limited to just what's available in the real world. Be as creative as you like. The world's your limit. Considering that Candlekeep is, these things are set in a library, or are they meant to revolve around the library? The library being accessible is not like the most unheard of thing, but even still, archaic libraries tend to have stairs, which are hard. But let's say that the library itself is accessible. Any rooms that you're not supposed to go into, right? Wouldn't be. Like, let's say that I'm an evil person and my domain is a library. My domain is a public library. Everything that I wouldn't want the public to see would take place either underneath it or somewhere locked away, and it wouldn't be an easy thing to get into. You're lucky if I would put stairs, and not just chasms of lava, and not just you have to be perfect in order to float there and teleport there. I would make it not accessible to leg-using people, let alone wheelchair-using people. So I don't know, it this kind of sums up everything that's wrong with current fantasy storytelling to me, where we're trying to make it so that people can write themselves into stories so much that we're playing with word idioms that shouldn't go in a sentence together. Wheelchair accessible dungeon is a no-no. It's just, it's an absolute no-no. Why would you do that? Dungeon implies that you don't want people to be there. Why do you want people to be there? Find a new word. If you want people to be there, find a new word. The only way I can make sense of that sentence in this situation is if the person that is evil is in a wheelchair themselves, because they need that accessibility for themselves. But even then, we're speaking realms with magic. I mean, technically, you don't even need a wheelchair. It's magic. Don't say regrow your legs, but if you can meld yourself into, I don't know, a centipede or a spider why wouldn't you? Just, it makes a lot more sense in a modern setting. But even then, places meant to keep people out are meant to keep people out, not invite them in. Would you really put accessibility options in places meant to keep people out? I don't know. I feel like so many people are gonna be angry at me for this. But it's just that's all from me. That's all from me. I am sorry, but if I was an evil tyrant, I wouldn't make my lair easy to get into. I also wouldn't make my lair easy to get into for blind and deaf people, even if that includes making puzzles that require eyesight and that require hearing. Because you know what? The lair is supposed to not be easy to get into for able-bodied people, for I want to keep people out. I don't understand why what want to keep people out is what's so hard to understand about this sentence. I don't understand. Like, have your fantasy wheelchairs, why not? Why not? But embezzle the wheelchair. Don't embezzle the evil lair to be accessible to the wheelchair, for that no sense make. For that no sense make, my friends. So thank you for watching this, friend. I really should get back to work. It has been on my head ever since I got linked to this in the morning. Yeah. Here I go, reverting to my old self that just looks at something, loses brain cells, and goes, why am I even engaging in this? This is not good for my mental health. It's not good for my mental health. Thank you for watching, and toodaloo.